All right, good evening. Welcome to the Town of Douglas Planning Board meeting of Wednesday, May 28th, 2025. Time is 7 p.m. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast by a local access program with remote participation available as provided on our agenda. I hereby call the meeting to order, 7 p.m. Quick roll call around the table for attendance. Jacob Schultzberg here.
Meg Schlesman here.
Rich Preston.
Jen Kuchar, staff.
Mike Swicker.
Jake Gnatic.
John Charbonneau, staff.
Okay. And normally, when we have an election, we have a reorganization, and normally the Community Development Director opens the meeting, but we also have an introduction to the new Community Development Director, so we're going to go to the introduction first. John.
It's nice that some of you have already met previously. My name is John Charbonneau, and I was originally born and raised in the North Smithfield, Woonsocket area. Born in Woonsocket, raised in North Smithfield, went to school in Woonsocket. Lived in Rhode Island vast majority of my life, but spent my entire career of 25 years in Massachusetts. After starting my career in 1998 with the city of Brockton, I transitioned for 5 years as a transportation planner with Serpent, the regional planning agency in Taunton, and then returned to land use planning, where I've spent the last part of my career since then. And I've worked in different communities, like I was mostly recently in Rutland. I worked in Stoughton, Rentham, and Rainham. And so I've worked in different size communities, and this position really appealed to me for a lot of reasons. One, it's very close to home. I grew up in this area, attended Clark University for my undergraduate, so I love the Blackstone River area. And I'm really thrilled to be here because in meeting with everybody during the 2 interviews, I definitely felt like this was going to be a good fit for me and vice versa. And this decision was not only a professional decision, but a personal one for me, because I also wanted to be in a situation where I have a good working relationship with the town administrator and also staff and the planning board. So just in the short time I've been here since last Thursday, all those things are definitely in place. So in talking to Jen since I started, we're mapping out a plan to streamline things, to organize things within the office, to make them operate more efficiently. And I told her, I said, as I find out more, I said, I have a vision. As far as organization, it's going to take some time. It's not going to be happening in a couple weeks, but we will get there. And so I'm really excited to be here and very happy to be here.
I'm sure Jen's keeping you busy with
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. All right, I guess I'll kick it to you, John. If you want to just open up for nominations for chair.
Yeah, sure. So as part of the reorganization, the first thing we'll do is accept nominations for chairperson of the planning board.
I'll nominate Jake.
Second. Second. Any discussion?
I'll take it.
Jake Fletchberg. Yeah, something we get it right, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Excellent.
Okay. All right. Any nominations for vice chair?
I nominate Meg for vice chair.
Second.
Thank you.
Meg, are you interested in accepting?
Yes.
All right. Any further, any other nominations? Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Moving right down the agenda, A&Rs, none. There are no A&Rs that came in, and we'll go right to public hearing for 7 p.m. Let's read the legal notice. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, the Town of Douglas Accessory Apartment Zoning Bylaw, Section 3.3 and 9.3, the Douglas Planning Board is holding a public hearing on the application for Anthony Brookhouse regarding an accessory apartment special permit. The property location is 35 Wallace Street, Assessors Map 185, Parcel 10, Douglas, Mass. The public hearing is being held on Wednesday, May 28, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the Douglas Municipal Center, Resource Room, 29 Depot Street, Douglas, Mass. Any person interested or wishing to be heard should appear at the time and place designated. The website for the agenda and Zoom information. A copy of the application is available for review during regular business hours in the Douglas Community Development Department, 29 Depot Street, Douglas, Mass. 01516. I call the meeting to order. Mr. Napick.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Pleasure as always to be before you. My name is Rob Napick from Allen Engineering. Congratulations on your nomination and election. Continuity is good. As you said, this is an application for an accessory apartment, and it's for property located at 35 Wallace Street in Douglas. With me this evening are the owners and applicants, Tony and Denise Brookhouse, Denise's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Koopman, and Eric Sampson of Koopman Lumber, who can speak authoritatively to some of the architectural aspects of the application. So, as you know, your bylaw authorizes the planning board to issue a special permit for an accessory apartment. It sets forth certain criteria for the issuance of that special permit, and also it allows for waivers. We do believe that we meet that criteria for the reasons set forth in the narrative that I submitted, and we also believe that the proposal warrants the grant of a waiver, and I'll explain why we believe that. So this first plan is a plan that was submitted to the town showing the property, which is about 13 acres, and showing the location of a proposed house and a proposed garage. This was submitted with the building permit application some years ago. The house and the garage are constructed in the locations shown on this plan. So the basic house and this garage are in that location. As you can see, it's a substantial, both structures are a substantial different distance from the property line. The property is at some distance off of Wallace Street. It's served by all necessary utilities, a septic system, well, etc. The subject of the accessory apartment application is the garage, and also submitted with the application are plans showing the garage. And probably draw your attention first to the third of the plans, where you can get a good sense of what the garage looks like. This was carefully designed by an architect. It's in keeping with the architecture of the house. It is conventionally, it looks like a garage. It has access on the first floor, and it has a gable roof. It has a second floor. The floor plans are shown on sheets 1 and 2. The first floor plan is really not part of the accessory apartment except for access. The first floor plan of a garage, as you'd expect, is the garage space. The second floor plan, which is the second of the 3 architectural sheets, does show the basic room layout of the accessory apartment. There was an application made and discussions were had with the building inspector as the Brookhouses were going through the process of trying to figure out just how this accessory apartment or ADU, if that was appropriate, could be constructed in light of the recently passed state statute, the Affordable Homes Act, which says, as you probably know, that municipalities can't prohibit accessory dwelling units as long as they're less than or equal to 900 square feet. It turns out that the space, the living space in the garage is 1,093 square feet. So if you read the accessory apartment bylaw that's still on the books and still quite valid, it does, as I say, set forth numerous criteria for the grant of the permit. That includes traffic flow, social, economic, community needs, adequacy of utilities, neighborhood character, impacts on the natural environment, and potential fiscal impact. Again, I won't go through them all. I assume you've read it, or you might have the opportunity to, but I can if you want. But for the reasons set forth in our narrative, we do believe we meet all of those criteria. I'll therefore focus on the fact that this does exceed the 900 square feet. It is, as I said, 1,093 square feet. So it is...
1093?
Yes, thank you. So it is 193 feet larger than what would be allowed as of right. And that's in part because there wasn't necessarily thought about complying with or dealing with the bylaw at the time it was designed. They did make certain revisions after it was initially designed, but 1,093 square feet is what this is. So the bylaw does say that deviation from the accessory apartment standards can be allowed upon a finding by the board that, quote, "Such deviation will not be detrimental to the neighborhood nor the intent of the bylaw." So in the narrative, we set forth the rationale. The accessory apartment is in a building, well, first of all, the accessory apartment also has to be, quote, "clearly secondary in nature to the principal dwelling, and it can't exceed 900 square feet." The building, as you saw, clearly has the appearance of a garage. It's clearly secondary in nature to the principal dwelling. I don't think there's a lot to say about that, but it does exceed 900 square feet. So those two criteria, secondary in nature, 900 square feet. It is secondary, it exceeds 900. So on the question of exceeding 900, as I said, you can allow that if you find that it's not detrimental to the neighborhood or the intent of the bylaw. So with regard to the effect on the neighborhood, as you can see from the building permit plan, and if you're familiar sort of with the pretty rural nature of this part of Douglas on that southerly side of Whiteman Reservoir, there's not really much of what we would think of as a neighborhood. Houses are pretty far apart. I don't think that this house or the garage is really visible from any of the adjoining dwellings without a great deal of effort. So on the question of the effect on the neighborhood, on that basis, I think it's pretty clear that it doesn't have much of an effect on the neighborhood at all. The second criteria is that it can't be detrimental to the purpose of the bylaw. So as we explained, the purpose of the bylaw as an accessory apartment is obviously to provide housing, additional housing for perhaps, parents or children, and that's exactly what the intention is here. So the 193 square feet in excess of the 900 seems pretty de minimis, especially since it's in an existing building. It's clearly won't have much of an effect on the neighborhood, if any, and also it serves the purpose of the bylaw. So for all those reasons, we respectfully request that you issue the special permit with the waiver allowing construction of an accessory apartment of 1,093 square feet. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Just for a point of order, Mr. Sokrat is here in attendance.
I am here,
Yeah,
fully here.
you came in. All right. John, any comments from your end?
Just a clarification, so you're only requesting the one waiver for the square footage, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. What's the distance between the detached garage and the house? Because one of the limitations is it's not supposed to be more than 50 feet, or it's supposed to be at least 50 feet, I believe?
Within 50 feet.
Within.
50 feet. So what's the distance from the building to the...
Say again, 40? Yes.
Okay, so it is within that.
Like a man who knows, it's 40.
Is that corner to corner? Do you know where?
Yeah, the two closest points would be there and there.
Okay.
And this plan is at a scale of 1 inch equals 60 feet, and I think you can see by eye that's less than 60, less than an inch rather. So
Yeah, Mr. Sokrat.
I want to thank you. This is well-crafted, coming from an architect on my end, well-presented and well thought out. Okay, I'm sure there's going to be some knee walls inside, and there's going to be some interest in the unit. You've given away some to get that interest on the design itself, so I'm totally in favor of this. This is tremendous. I think this is great. So that's just my...
I have some questions for the chair. On the drawings, where's the kitchen? Where's the bedroom? Where's all that stuff? None of it's laid out in the drawings? You're showing one bathroom in a corner in the gathering room, and that's it. So,
Eric Sampson. So those haven't been shown on the second floor plan yet because we didn't have approval to do so. But the idea would be that the front portion above the overhead doors would be a bedroom, and the kitchen would be in the room that's labeled gathering room. On the right side, a kitchenette would fit into that space.
You have another
I
follow?
just one follow-up too. So how does this, we have pending paperwork at the state level, which we haven't heard back from yet. It's sitting there for the ADUs of the state. So how is this all going to come into play if next week, whatever they say, hey, we're making it to 900 square feet, or where we already have pending I don't know, it's not litigation, but the findings in front of the state right now, we know what it's going to be. How is it all going to come into play? Where we're doing this after the fact, granted, something needs to be set here and able to do, but we already know the regs are 900 square feet, period. That's it. It's either that or half of the square footage of the dwelling. Here we are going above that, knowing what the state regs are. How is that going to come into play?
John? Yeah.
Until the Attorney General's office makes a ruling, then the applicant is bound by the
Current?
that are in
Okay.
place right now. So that's all we can go by right now.
Yeah.
They submit an application, subject, they did the proper things,
Yeah.
even though, again, once the Attorney General rules, that is going to change, obviously. Single ADUs are no longer going to be allowed to require a special permit, but right now, this is all the board can act on at the time, and they're bound by the existing
Okay.
bylaws, which they're following.
As long as everybody, as long as we're all on the same page. We knew this was going to happen.
Yeah, the AG's office seems to be,
They don't know what they want to do yet.
well, it's not just this. There were 3 zoning bylaw amendments that I had approved in Rutland last fall. One was a very simple one, to add a use regulation table and dimensional table, and they still haven't ruled on that one. So I think the AG's office is just inundated with work between the ADUs, between the MBTA multifamily housing regulations. I think they're overwhelmed, and they're not getting to everything as quickly as they used to.
I would add, if you don't mind, I think we're on safe ground because the statute itself, the Affordable Homes Act, basically said, in not so many words, that up to 900 square feet as of right, you can't prohibit it. You can regulate ADUs over 900 square feet, which this is. And a lot of towns are actually scrambling to adopt bylaws to regulate by special permit ADUs over 900 square feet. But you're in, I suppose, the fortunate situation where they have a bylaw.
I think everything we read was 900 is max, period. That was it.
Or half.
Or half.
Yes.
There's no such thing as going over.
Whichever.
Through the chair, though, this is what we have before us right now, our bylaws.
This is ours.
Yeah, let's just stick, personally, I think, just stick with this, and this is what's in front of us.
Meg, you have a?
Yeah, the issue that I have with this is that it's new construction and it's being designed to be over the 900 square feet that is the limitation. So in doing this, was this not the intention of this space to begin with, or did you always intend to do this?
Yeah, as I said, Tony and Denise, feel free to chime in as you wish, but this project has been in the works for quite a number of years. I forget exactly what year they purchased the property, but it was quite some years ago. And I think it's fair to say that this wasn't foreseen at the time that the original garage was developed, as far as the size of it, the footprint, but not. So it is something that they adapted to later in the process for various family reasons and so forth. I think it's also correct to say, I know it's correct to say, that nobody said we want, at the outset, we want a design, hey architect, design an accessory apartment of 1,093 feet. It's just kind of the way it came about.
Yeah, the permit for the project was pulled in 2022, and at that point, the ADU law wasn't on the books, and at that point, it was just decided that they needed the garage with the primary residence, and the room above was simply labeled a gathering space. So as Mr. Knappich pointed out, that this was, the overage is more a function of, that's the available space under the roof line that was appealing, and as a result, that's why they're looking for the waiver, because that roof line provides 1,093 feet. They weren't pursuing that initially to be in excess of that.
So if I may, through the chair. So these are not squared up walls. You could see there's sloped roofs in here, sloped ceilings. So they're giving away a bit of that for the design aesthetics of the project. So the 1,093 may really act as 900. I mean, the thing is, it's a balance between aesthetics and square footage. And you can see all the knee walls in here. This is how you get that design on the outside. So I personally don't have a problem with it. That's
So
pleasure
through
for everybody.
through the chair on that aspect, in reality, this is well over 2,000 square feet.
Great, it's
here.
deducting that.
No. I think they're doing their footprint from wall to wall.
Let's hold on.
But you're,
Hold on, Aaron.
I'm speaking. All you have to do is close those 2 garage doors. Now you have a 2-story house, and you never know
oh, you mean them building it out later?
it. So, just every unit we've ever seen has never been like a garage, and then we're going to go above it and call it this. It's been the one building or the one footprint, and that's what it is. So I know where this is at. I know it's out of the way. But in reality, you just close the 2 garage doors, now you have a 2,000 square foot residence. Never even know it. Easy to do. They're only counting 1,000 square feet, the upstairs and the little hallway, and that's it. Not including the square footage of the garage.
But that would be nefarious. And
No, it
that's not
isn't.
what I'm suggesting.
So through the chair, they're in construction right now. It's so easy, you get up the pipes and everything all laid out. Nothing's laid out in this drawing. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but the possibility is truly there, flat out.
I have a question. Is there a garage on the primary house?
Yes.
Okay. And then,
The intent of this garage was for them to be able to put their boat in it as well, so that they don't have to store the boat. Since they're on the water in the wintertime, they put the boat in this garage.
Yeah, my parents would have a car,
just,
or 2 cars, if they lived there.
could you just say your name, and if you're going to make a comment, please?
My name's Denise Brookhouse.
Okay, Denise, thank
These
you.
are my parents.
Okay.
So if they do move in, eventually, they would have need for a garage.
All right, and that just brings up another concern I have is in the letter from the applicants or the owners, the primary purpose of this accessory apartment is to accommodate the possible future needs of Denise's parents. So we don't know if this use is even going to be, or this build-out's even going to be used for this accessory for the parents. It's possible in the future, so we don't know a timeline. So I have a concern that,
They have to unmute you, so you,
so I just have a concern that this is just this could potentially just turn into a guest house, a secondary house on the property. We had an applicant about a year ago that came to us, similar situation of a detached accessory, and the board did have a concern of it being more of a secondary house. And with that, they were originally looking for it to be over 900, and this board kind of wanted it to be at 900 to avoid it being a secondary house on the property. So I just have those concerns.
Can I comment?
Yes.
In choosing this path to go as the accessory apartment rather than as an ADU, that was done working with Commissioner Frazier, who suggested that this path would be a more appropriate decision, seeing that that could only be used for a relative rather than an ADU, which could be, a rental or anything that they might want. Because there's no intention to use it as a guest house or any other purpose other than the Brookhouses.
Yeah. Well, again, if we pass this or this gets approved, once it's built, there's no way for us to know what's really going on behind the doors, if it is being used for guest house, rental, or for the parents in the potential
I
future.
think there is. A couple things. I've made the applicants aware of your bylaw, which clearly requires that there be some, it sets forth the folks who can live there, not just anybody. They have to be related and so forth. I've also let them know that these special permits are for a term. I believe it's 3 years. Is that right?
I don't know what's
Yeah.
happening now with the changes,
Well,
how it's,
temporary.
Your
Yeah.
bylaw hasn't changed, so the special permit is for a term. So there's the expectation and the requirement that they return to renew it, so there's that. In addition, I don't doubt that the assessors will investigate the property during construction and do whatever evaluation they do. So, but you're right, I mean, that's theoretically true of any ADU or accessory apartment. If somebody really wanted to, they could pull the wool over the town's eyes, I suppose, but I think you perhaps also have the comfort of knowing that this is a pretty substantial investment that they're making in their home, and the likelihood that they want anybody else but family living in that kind of proximity is pretty small. I understand the concerns. I'm just suggesting to you that probably less valid in this case.
Mr. Chair.
Can I just want to go make sure everyone on the board has a chance to have comments first before I go to the audience.
So to the chair on that, once the ADU laws pass, all this renewal stuff is done and over with, just so you know.
I don't think
You
so,
might,
because-
it is. We already know all that. It's already been discussed and gone through in seminars. So, yes, right now, it is required, but it won't be going forward. That's what's on the books. That's why we had so much debate here in planning board over all this stuff.
Sir? Just name and address, please, for the minute
Tony
tape.
Brook, 35 Walnut and Whitensville, 500 Hill Street. Commissioner Frazier made sure when we started this construction that we ran all the utilities, both the water, sewer, and the electrical, through the main house. So your concern, to help you with your concern, there's no zero net metering or anything that can go on because all the main utilities go through the main house. So I can give you my word and our family's word. We've been in the Waxaw Valley for 85 years.
Yeah.
That we're not going to be pulling the wool over on Douglas's eyes, and there's plenty of eyes on this project. So with the utilities running through the main house, there's no intent for us to rent this or do anything nefarious.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm wondering, is the concern that we're going to rent it out? Or what is, I guess, what is the concern?
Well, maybe not necessarily just rent it, but it's a large, beautiful property on a lake. Guests coming in for weekends could potentially stay there, other family, friends. It just kind of potentially screams as a secondary house on the property. That's my concern.
So we would have non-family living there permanently, or just staying there for a night?
Could be.
I'm
Anything,
trying to
really.
understand what is, yeah.
Because the intent of our bylaw is for family to stay there, and already it's written that it's for the potential future, so it's a little worrisome for me. I'm not sold one way or the other.
As you said, I mean, our plan would never be to rent to somebody or anything like that.
Mr. Preston?
Yeah, I have a question. So right now, because of the Attorney General is still working on this, we're doing this under the guise of our bylaw. But soon enough, that's not going to be the case. The law is going to be finalized, the Attorney General is going to give us their answer. This could be converted into a accessory unit anyway, and used for all those things.
I just don't know whether it being over 90 feet, if it could.
Well, we have precedent for that. That's only 20% larger than 900. Tell me we don't have precedent for doing this.
If I can through the chair, right now we do, but once the 900 comes in from the state, you can't go above the 900.
Well, but we're dealing with it as a...
Right, I know that, yeah, no,
So 20%.
Yeah, this is-
Slightly more than
yeah, that's
20% is
fine.
not, we've done that,
No,
and
yeah.
recently.
yeah.
So we have precedent for that.
No, there's no precedent.
There is no
precedent.
Yeah, there is no precedent.
Doesn't exist.
Every case is, we can use other stuff in the back of our head as examples and thought, but there's no technical
precedent.
precedent. Every
Precedent,
application
By
is,
definition, is we've done it before.
yeah.
That's precedent.
Can I add to that? And I'm in agreement with the chairperson. in consulting with town councils over the years, each case is a case-by-case basis. A board doesn't need to keep approving the same type of application just because it did it before, because each case is its own thing. So just because a board did it before doesn't mean they have to do it this time. And that's not to discourage or encourage the board either way, just that's for clarification. So you're right, there is no such thing as a precedent. Each project is based on its own merits.
If I could finish my thought, I'm not saying we're committed to doing the 20%, but we've done it quite a few times.
Is it?
And just with that, with a previous detached unit, there was worry about it being too much in one ask for it.
Through the chair, if I recall that particular scenario, there was a hardship that we considered as part of that. And I just don't see that there's a hardship here in terms of the request for going over the 900 square feet.
If I may, through the chair.
This is so great.
If this wasn't being presented to us as an accessory dwelling unit or ADU or whatever, and anybody just wants to build a garage and put a playroom above, separate, detached, bathrooms, no stove. Stove seems to be everywhere as an issue for a dwelling unit. If this wasn't a dwelling unit, and this was a place where people could go, you have a sink and you have bathrooms and a big family room and you do a hot pan or whatever, but not a stove, I don't see the distinction in that. I mean, everyone has a right to have extra rooms on their site. Have a garage, have a playroom above, have bathrooms. So, okay, I'm just taking it from that standpoint that I don't see this being, this is 13 acres too. I mean, this isn't, in the village district or anything like that. I mean, this is a big site. So.
And anyone else on the, Jake, do you have anything? I know you haven't.
No, just, granting waivers for something this size, being a two-story, well, not a two-story, well, potential. It does kind of serve detriment to the law, the bylaw itself, by granting the waiver.
Mrs. Wigger, you had a thought right before that. All right, so with that.
To the chair, I agree. We have granted them in the past. I know what this is. There's plenty of room and everything else. Just bringing up points. Points on the situation here. That's all it is. You know what I mean? It's new construction. It could have been done a little bit differently, I think. A year ago, 2 years ago, the bylaws in our town still said 900 square feet. So right off the bat, you were going over what we say in our own bylaw. Right. So you knew you were going to break the bylaw when you built it, period. And you were just hoping that, okay, I might get a waiver on it. So that's the only thing that is kind of, for me, a stickler.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this is a public hearing, so is there anyone in the audience? I know no one's hiding over there. Anyone online for this matter, for 35 Wallace Street? Yeah, I don't know Richard Starkey. Do you folks have any other comments or questions?
I guess your question about there's no commitment for them living there, and that wouldn't matter if we were saying, in 6 months they're planning to move in there, right? Did you need a timeline, or
No, you can.
would that make a difference?
It would probably help, potentially, a timeline, just where it was a possible future.
Mr. Chair, it doesn't matter if somebody is an accessory unit. If they go to Florida for 6 months and come up here for 6 months, we don't care what they do in that unit, right? They can travel, they can do whatever they want.
But they live there.
No, but they live there,
Yeah.
as residents, but they can go away 6 months, they can go away 3 months, they can go whatever. So it's not like, if they say they're moving in when this is done, but they'll be in Florida half the year, it's not our business, right? Because it's once whoever's got the unit has got the unit. So it's just a simple question, not even a question, more of a thought.
So, Mr. Sharma, do you have any other final thoughts or rundown?
No, that last, just to say on that last comment regarding a time frame, if the board were to move forward with an approval of this, craft a condition of approval, if the board's comfortable with that, reflecting some kind of timeline that's agreed to between the board and the applicant.
Yeah, I just, if it gets approved, I would like someone to actually be residing there. If they go to Florida for the winter, that's, yeah, they do that, but they still reside at the house.
Right.
Just where it's being presented now, we don't know if and when it's even going to be used for residency.
And through the chair, for something that potentially is 6 months down the road, would it make more sense to wait and see if the AG opines on what the ADU requirements are, and then be able to do it under that versus trying to do it under the accessory apartment bylaw versus the ADU bylaw? Because we'll have some more definitive answers in terms of what is and what isn't at that point, potentially.
Yeah, I understand. However, I don't think the AG's opinion on the recently enacted regulations are going to change this, and here's why. The statute was passed. They're not going to change that. The statute was passed last October, I think, saying, amending the zoning bylaw, saying, you know, like daycares, like churches, which cannot be prohibited. A town cannot prohibit an accessory dwelling unit up to 900 square feet. Then, following that enactment in, I think, January or February, the Executive Office of Housing and Living Communities adopted regulations to implement that statute. The regulations did nothing to change the basics of the statute. 900 feet or below, you can't prohibit it. But there's no question that above 900 square feet, the town can regulate it. So for that reason, I don't see the AG doing anything that will change that basic sort of cutoff. Even though people are sort of, municipalities, building officials are kind of feeling their way a little bit with regard to those regulations, I don't see anybody saying your accessory apartment bylaw, Douglas, is invalid. So for that reason, I don't think that waiting for some clarification on those regulations would affect this at all. I would also just wrap up quickly by saying that I appreciate that you mentioned that in some other case a hardship was discussed or perhaps considered. I just want to be clear that the bylaw doesn't require it. You know, this isn't a variance. This board doesn't grant variances anyway. That the standard is pretty clear. The deviation, meaning it going over 900 square feet, won't be detrimental to the neighborhood or the intent of the bylaw. And I won't repeat myself, but I think we meet that standard. And yeah, I don't want anything more to that.
Okay. All right. Board, any other questions or comments?
Oh, I do have one thing.
Yeah, I was going to go over to you anyways if you wanted to submit something else before I...
I do want to add, importantly, that this is a special permit, and as you know, you have very broad discretion in the context of issuing a special permit with conditions that could say, for example, even though it's obvious, because that's what the bylaw says, but the special permit could be conditioned to say, this is not a guest house, it can't be used for a guest house. So to the extent that others, you know, have those sorts of concerns, perhaps valid, through your power of issuing a special permit with conditions, I think you can address some of those concerns.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
That's absolutely right, because even with the state regulations, they allow towns to absolutely prohibit short-term rentals of ADUs under their regulations, so that's not going to change.
So, to the chair, and we've submitted our bylaws to the AG. We wrote a bylaw and then submitted it so that short-term rentals will not be possible. So I'm not sure that we're, in this scenario, thinking about short-term rentals. But for me, it's the 900 square feet when it's being built could have been complied with, but it wasn't. So I think that's kind of where I fall out on this. I think it could have easily been designed to be 900 square feet. Those are just my
And I'm
thoughts.
sure that if their architect was given the charge some 3 or 4 years ago, design that garage with an accessory apartment no greater than 900 square feet, that's what would have happened. But that was not how the design of the garage came about. As you heard, the garage was designed, and originally was supposed to be a gathering space, and then due to primarily family circumstances, it was decided to convert that to an accessory apartment. And as Socrates pointed out, there were steps taken to decrease that space to the extent reasonably practical to try to meet that 900, but it's just...
So, once more through the chair, I don't mind that it is where it is with these knee walls inside, looking sort of like craftsman style inside the place. I mean, the architect could come back. I'm not saying, I don't have a desire for it to be 900, I don't care. I think where it is fine. But they could come in a foot here, a foot there into the knee wall. Instead of the knee wall being 4 feet, it's 5 feet or 5.5 feet. You get more height, you can walk into that. You could probably knock it down to 900, I mean, if you had to, okay? So I'm just saying that, to be fair to both sides here, I don't care that it's what it is now, but I think they could get it to the 9 if it had to be. But that doesn't bother me at all right now. I like it the way it is, but it's just me.
Board, any other questions or comments from the members of the board? Okay. Is this what you want to submit for our vote? Okay. Folks in the audience, any other comments or? Okay. And I'll just open it up in case anyone snuck online. I don't see anyone else online. Comments or questions regarding 35 Wallace Street? All right, with that, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second, yeah.
Okay, motion made by Mrs. Wicker, second by Mr. Gnatic. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so we're just going to discuss. John, you might open up the book to, just for the special permit for what we need for criteria. I know it's in the narrative. So I just want to kind of go through those and have a quick discussion on each of them. Criteria, like the traffic flow.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
So, traffic flow and safety, including parking and loading, social, economic, and community needs which are served by the proposal, adequacy of utilities and other public structures, neighborhood character and social structures, impacts on the natural environment, and potential fiscal impact, including impact on town services, tax base, and income.
All right. Anyone on the board have any thoughts on any of those criterias?
No, I mean, it's off the beaten path. I know where it's at. I mean, yeah, it's only 1,000 square feet. It's just, I think it's just the way it went down. That's what I don't like. The 1,090 square feet, who cares? You're never gonna know. But the way it went down, I don't think it's right.
Could have been avoided.
Very easily.
Okay.
I mean, designs and drawings that change on the fly 24 hours a day. It happens all the time. Don't tell me about, you know, it takes 4 years to design it and build it. It's changed on the fly every day of the week. So saying that you know, you don't know is kind of, I think, a scapegoat. But as far as the size-wise, I mean, like I said, I just don't like the way it went down.
All right, and if there's any, if we do vote, do we want to discuss any conditions now, or do we do the vote, do we want to do the vote first?
My opinion, the conditions are mute, because once the state comes into play, everything we say is irrelevant.
And through the chair, sorry, I was going to say through the chair, who's going to monitor these conditions? Who's going to enforce them?
Same as every other one, probably, right? Is it the building inspector?
Building commissioner.
No, it's only one guy.
He's one person.
A condition you could put, that you mentioned, no building out of the garage for the living space. You said that.
That's
I
never
mean, it's a
gonna be-
condition. I know it's probably hollow, but, I don't think, I'm not worried about it, but you brought it up, and I respect that.
Now, naturally, when it comes to enforcement of conditions of approval, whether it be home occupations or ADUs, unfortunately, most towns do not have the staff to be everywhere. And to be, I mean, when I was in the town of Framingham before it became a city, the building department had a full-time position just to monitor signs. So it's a matter of we rely on observation when we get a call from somebody and the butter saying, hey, I think they're doing something outside of their approval, and then we can follow up on it. But you're right. I mean, towns don't have the staff or the time to be going out and monitoring every aspect of every project, for better or worse. It's just reality.
If it is passed, I wouldn't mind seeing a condition of no guest, like, it can't be a guest house. It'd have to be,
Oh, in line with the bylaw.
aligned with the bylaw of. Any thought on it being resided within a certain amount of time? Or, I know it's tough because, people do travel and go places, but.
To the chair, I mean, but, I'm repeating myself. I know what you guys are building at. They're not building it to have people come in and live there for 3 weeks and stuff like that. It's going to be for family members. There isn't 40 of these little garages going up for people to come and rent on a holiday weekend. So as far as that aspect goes, sure, there's going to be a time when they're going to move into it. Is it going to be next week? Probably not. But they're doing this to get ahead of the bylaw from the state, so that they're not committed to the requirements. That's why it's in here now, as is, to get a jump on it.
And I get it too, you want to get it approved and
They wanna get it
done,
approved
just in
before.
case
Right.
the use is needed, it's there and ready to go.
Correct. So, which is fine, I mean.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman, if I could. So, John, I'll address this to you. So once the Attorney General crosses the Ts and dots the Is, and ADUs are allowed, period, does it render all this moot? Will they be able to do whatever they want to do? It can be a rental, which is by law, that was the intent. So we're going round and round and round, but I think this might all be rendered moot sooner than later.
Other than the size.
This property would be bound to this special permit once a decision is rendered. Now, once the special permit expires.
Oh, the 3-year term?
3 years,
Yeah,
then
then it
that's
would.
another story, because
Okay.
then the new bylaw will be in effect. But a decision tonight would be based on the existing bylaw, so that's what we're bound by for the term of the special permit.
Okay, thank you.
My understanding through town council when he was here, that's wrong. The minute the AG says this is what it is, everything we have does not exist no more,
Transition's
period.
over.
From that point forward, that is the law.
I'd have to check the town council on that one to get a clarification.
She went to a seminar on it, she, Meg, no.
That's my understanding, that once the ADUs come into play and have been approved and blessed by the AG, all of this accessory apartment stuff goes away.
Goes away, period.
But how can that reverse things that were approved, undo things that were approved previously, say 2-3 years ago?
So people will not need to renew under
Right, but that's
the
what I'm saying.
accessory
Yeah,
apartment.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. If a special permit gets issued for 2 years, the special permit's on the books.
So if I can, to debate on that is, yes and no. It's on the books, but anything is written up about it is mute at that point, the minute the AG states. Nobody comes back to refile, nobody comes back to let us know who's in it, nobody comes back for an application, for an extension. All that is done and over with.
So it erases all
period.
previous approvals?
No, it allows the size to stay the way it was, but everything that's written up is mute, is irrelevant, because the state regs
But
take over.
grandfathering is normally something that's already in place before a bylaw becomes enacted.
It's not a bylaw, it's a state act.
No, but the town's approving a bylaw. That's my point. I'd have to have a conversation with town council.
Yeah, we don't
Yeah.
supersede it.
Can we get an opinion, John? I'm sorry,
Yeah,
the chair,
yeah,
from town council?
Because in conversations I had with town council when I was in Rutland, I didn't get that impression that it would make a decision that was before this bylaw was officially on the books, null and void, because that's not usually the way it works, but this has been processed differently than in the past. It's the first time the state's come in and said, no, this has to be allowable anywhere you allow single-family homes and not a certain district, and they're not giving towns the choice. So let me consult with town council on that.
Is that something we want an answer for before we vote?
For this one here, I got no problem.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, it is what it is. I understand what they're doing. I mean,
Yeah, I know you think it's fine. I just want to make sure everyone else
No, you
agrees.
should have. I wasn't trying to undermine
So,
your asking
I
the
mean,
question.
I got no problem. We've done them even larger than this before,
Yeah.
you know, so.
All right. So it is a special permit, so that requires a super majority.
Mr. Chairman, do you want me to vote on this?
Yeah, we have absent
right.
members, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a special permit, so that's why you're here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so we need 4?
Five.
Five.
It's a supermajority of the entire board.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 7.
Okay. All right, so anyone care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented before us with the waiver of the square footage as presented.
With the conditions discussed?
And the conditions that have been discussed as well.
In standard conditions, if,
Yeah.
I'll second it.
okay, motion made by Mr. Sokrat, second by Mr. Zwicker. Any further discussion? Let's go around the table. Do a roll call.
You starting, am I starting?
Yeah.
I'll approve it, but similar to Mr. Zwicker, I don't like the way it happened.
I say yes.
Rich Preston, aye.
Mike Zwicker, aye.
Jake and Attic,
You have the vote. Congratulations, you have your accessory apartment. I typically don't unless I have to.
So if you abstain,
It just passes by majority. Yeah.
unanimous?
Yeah, or not simple, just by simple majority of that, yeah.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Guys, have a good night. Have fun.
All right, additional business, 53G account refund, Upton site remediation, 466 Northeast Main Street, possible votes. John or Jen?
So if I could, through the chair, Upton site remediation, this board closed out about 2 years ago. We returned their bond, but I had some 53G money left over. So I reached out and the applicant asked for the refund. So we're just closing this out completely so I can clean up my books.
Okay.
Give us the money, huh?
Might there be a dollar amount? No? No?
I have the vouchers in the signature, if you want to give the dollar amount.
Refund, $615.59.
Could have bought us some bounds.
So we need a motion.
Want a motion to refund the 53G account in the amount of $615.59
Correct.
for Upton site remediation for 466 Northeast Main Street.
Motion made by Mr. Zwicker,
Second.
second by Mr. Gnatic. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We'll pass it around, have that signed. There was no ZBA applications, correct? Okay. One?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a ZBA application for 8 Wickstead Court, Kamal Armanius, variance, constructing a 16 by 10 foot deck, need relief for front yard setback, VR zone is 50 from front deck, is 30.2 feet from front yard setback. pass this around. Jen, do you have any comments on that? I know you go through those packets.
Yeah, it's just a pretty simple variance for a deck front yard setback. They're just looking for that relief.
Checking a 16 by 10, need relief for front yard setback. So it's 50, and they're looking for 30.2. And ZBA is meeting Wednesday, June 4th.
Correct.
Okay. Board, any comments, questions, concerns?
See no
Yes,
problem
just,
with it.
it's in their front yard?
The house kind of sits crooked.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Are there any
It's a crooked house.
safety issues with it being in the front yard?
No, actually, it's kind of off to the side. The way the house sits, the house is in the setbacks to begin with, so it's kind of a non-conforming.
So it's already pre-existing?
It's, yeah, so.
All right. General consensus, no issue from the board?
No problem.
Master plan, Mr. Preston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, we met last Wednesday, May 21st. We completed the vision statement, which is harder than you would think.
Who was there?
You were there.
I loved it.
Which we got to
With bells on.
have a conversation, discuss that possibly.
Well, I was in the audience as a citizen.
Yeah,
We completed the vision statement, which is the primary opening statement or document regarding current and future planning at the beginning of the master plan. So it's the first document people see, and it doesn't seem like much, but it took a while to get through that, and we did complete that. There was also a presentation of a Riverwalk preliminary plan done by Margaret Bacon and several others, and that covers the area of land between Cook and Mechanic Street, so we're all very enthused about that. And now they're going to take it on the road and talk to planning board, selectmen, conservation, and see if we can't build some interest and support.
that's great that she did that pro bono.
Yeah,
She did a wonderful job, yeah.
yeah, beautiful layout, too.
Yeah. it's-
My only thought, I don't know if you can pass this along to her, is I believe the town owns across the property to Soldiers Field, so I don't know if we can incorporate something going that way as well.
I think we're bookended there. I think we own some on the other end, too.
Yeah.
Down below the housing, the old mill housing. I think the town has some property.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like, the public ball fields, a lot of people go there, so I just don't know if that's a possibility. I don't know how close any town line is to the water, if it potentially could go across the street towards the town.
Anything's possible,
Yeah.
Nick. Anything's possible. Yeah, we're really excited, and I will mention that.
Yeah, just could link up, Riverwalk, and as much as we can potentially get, I wouldn't mind looking into it.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll be starting writing the 7 elements or 7 areas covered by the master plan, which is a big job. We have a year to go, so we hope to be finished June 2026, as mentioned. And our next meeting is June 18th.
Just so that if we have 3 planning board members on the master plan committee, so if anyone else on the planning board attends, we need to be very cautious. We need to potentially post it as a meeting, because if we get a quorum there, it's a open meeting law violation. So even if someone's attending, it's a public meeting, so people can go and sit in the audience, but once people start participating in conversations, that's where it could potentially lead to an open meeting violation, so.
Really?
Yeah.
So if you're, as a citizen, 49 Lindbergh Ave, and you chime in on something because they're letting people chime in, you can't do that?
If we have a quorum at a meeting, a public meeting, no. But people can, like I said, people can attend a meeting. Like, someone can just walk in here and sit. It's an open meeting, people can sit, but in my opinion and my research of public meetings, you can't start dialoguing and discussing. Can't be a part, someone can't be a part of the meeting. I don't know if you have any further insight on it?
Yeah, and I have my issues with how specific it's gotten. For instance, if I wanted to have, working with a 5-member planning board in Rutland, if I wanted to have more than 2 members, just come to my office to have a powwow about meetings and process. I don't want to post that as a public meeting because I wouldn't want to be open to the public. I want to have a private conversation. I couldn't do that because it's 3 members of the planning board in the same place. I would agree with it, but to Jake's point, yeah, they're becoming stricter and stricter with it. So you and I talked about this today, so.
Luckily Meg wasn't there, so we didn't have an issue, but
Yeah.
I know it's a very long process, so there's gonna be a lot more meetings, so.
So
it's just
as long
something-
as we can sit there, just can't say anything, just have to listen.
So if I could, through the chair, is it possible for us to do that joint agenda?
Yeah, so I was gonna start doing that whenever the master plan committee met, just to post an agenda of the planning board with just a one agenda item to discuss the master plan.
Yeah.
That way, if something happens, you're covered. That's it.
Yeah, if people are looking to potentially attend, it
Yeah.
would be good.
We don't want to jeopardize the whole master plan process,
Right,
so
right.
if we had one sentence,
Didn't realize.
make life a lot easier, you know?
All right. When was the next meeting?
Excuse me,
June
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 18th.
18th.
18.
At 5 PM.
Yes, yes.
5, early birds.
We should do that.
All right. So ongoing development, we have,
This.
just put that off to the side. Is there an update at all for cubes or legacy?
So if I could, through the chair, the cubes, we should be removing from this agenda soon.
Okay.
As it's coming close, as soon as the building commissioner issues his occupancy and we get somebody in there.
Okay.
We've already closed it out in conservation, so that should be coming to an end. I believe John will be looking into Peter Michael Business Park, as we did get a complaint about some possible work happening there, so we're going to look into that as it's been stopped for the litigation. And then we move forward to Oak Street, where,
Oh, hold on one second,
I
John.
recuse myself.
oh, sorry.
Is there nothing to vote on anymore? I have one in my house. So I've got a funeral tomorrow, so.
Minutes?
No
No,
minutes.
no.
Okay,
No.
appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right.
So Ken Frazier, our building commissioner, did a site walk and did a quick write-up of what he observed. And most of the stuff in red, Blue Wave are claiming they're not going to be going through with it.
Okay.
It is on the plans, so I don't know what the planning board would like to do with that.
Okay. All right, so I'm just going to go through. So
I'm just going to put this out, yeah.
items, well, not powered, so that's not going to
So
happen.
The original permit was for an agricultural solar, so they were supposed to have animals come and graze on the solar. So there was supposed to be an animal barn, they're not putting that up. The agricultural wells are not being completed, and whatever else was on that list.
The irrigation lines.
Second well, 3-sided 30 by 60 animal enclosure,
Yep, so that was supposed to be here.
irrigation lines,
Those irrigation lines that run up and around.
and then in progress, need an agricultural use report. All right. So John, I know you're fresh jumping into this, so what are we looking at here?
That's a good question. In discussing this today, Meg came in today to talk about it. I'd have to talk to Ken about this because normally things like this would be put in as conditions of approval to be completed before activation of the solar array, but they're already up and running. So my fear is that the town really has very little, if no leverage right now because they're already operational. So I would have to look into what remedies the planning board has. So I really don't know what that would be right now because, different thresholds at different points of leverage, like with residential subdivisions, road acceptances are usually the last point of leverage to make sure things are done. In this case, yes, we do. There has been a bond put in place, but it's minimal.
Minimal.
It's really not enough to make a difference, but I would need to talk to Ken and potentially town council as far as what leverage the town has at its disposal right now, if potentially the building commissioner could possibly issue a cease and desist order. But I would have to look into that, so right now, I don't
Okay.
know for certain what that would be.
And if I could, through the chair, I do know that it's chapter land also. So talking to the assessor, the only other leverage would be taking that out and having them have to pay commercial taxes.
Okay. And if there is changes, they do have to come to us for
Yeah, they should have to come
modifications.
to you for this.
So if those are definitely not being done, they do have to come to us for modifications, and we have to determine if it's minor or anything like that.
So through the chair, I think it, at a minimum, require them to be at our next meeting to explain what the plan is or their rationale for not doing these things.
And in the meantime, do more research to figure out, so just be prepared for them when they do come in. Is there anything, when's our next meeting?
June 11th.
June 11th?
So, Mr. Chair, would the motion be to have them and the building commissioner present at the next meeting, so the building commissioner could speak to his experience with this, too?
Maybe, I don't know if we necessarily need him, but it wouldn't hurt. But there might be stuff figured out in the meantime.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it might, for him to be here, that might be a 2-day before decision. We don't know. All right, so we'll reach out to them, have them at our next meeting, and research and figure out what's going on and what we have to work with, and,
What the options are.
yeah, but they need to be here at the next meeting. And hopefully this can come to a resolution one way or another in our favor. Board, any questions on that? All right, we'll move on from that. Mrs. Wicker?
I'm back.
Okay. Any other updates from any of the other ongoings?
So John and I went through this list today. We're going to do some research on the ones that have been on here for a while. But
Deer Crossing?
Deer Crossing, there is movement on that. Actually, they're going to be submitting an NOI for their road, finishing the road down there, so that's moving.
Okay.
Gilboa Court will need to reach out to Carol Gogolinsky as that's become stagnant. Evergreen was approved and never happened. We see the developer every once in a while pop in. The Sleepy Hollow, that should be able to be removed soon as the town accepted the road. I will just need them to submit a request so I can return their bond. And then Hawk Hills is moving, right?
I have been told that I'm not allowed to speak about it.
Okay, so Hawk Hills will be moving. Sutton Douglas Development, I got to reach out to Wayne Bellick. I don't know if anything's moving on that. I talked to him in the past couple months.
Yeah, we heard there was movement, and then there wasn't
Right.
maybe, and.
But with the tolling, the permit's been extended, so I'll see if I can touch base with him and introduce him to John.
Yeah, and just checking in on these two would help John
Yes,
see the town,
exactly.
see what's going
Yeah.
on, start meeting some people, and get eyes on them.
Yeah. Wallem Solar, we heard from Mr. Lawrence, and Ken's still not signing off completely on that project. He's still not happy, so I think that's something else that John and Ken will have to look into. O'Leary, they're in the building permit stage, so that's moving forward. Douglas Package Store is also starting with their demo permits.
Oh,
Nice.
And Webster Street is in motion. I get questions about that by butters all the time, so there's something happening there.
Yeah.
I know there is. But that's about it for now.
all right, and signatures are going around. Open session topics not reasonably anticipated 48 hours in advance of the meeting. Anyone have anything? Minutes, there are no minutes. Next meeting, June 11, 2025. With that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll say, welcome to the first meeting, John, many more to come. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Made by Mrs. Wiggers, second by Ms. Preston. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.